As we welcome into the conversation our good friend from On 3, Billy Embody, here on a Tuesday morning. Bill, good morning. How are you?
Guys, how are you?
Doing good, man. There we go, Bill. There we go, Stu.
There we go, Stuart. New board.
Bill, let's start with the recruiting news yesterday. Wardell Mack, obviously a huge target for LSU and a lot of schools around the SEC. A five-star cornerback out of New Orleans pledges to Florida. What did you make of the news?
Well, it was surprising that Wardell Mack committed to Florida, honestly. Texas had a lot of the buzz really leaving this summer, or I guess leaving the month of July, and the Longhorns were very confident that they were going to get Wardell Mack, and LSU was hoping to have gotten him on campus for the Bayou Splash. That didn't happen. He ends up going to Florida. And the Gators went out here, and Billy Napier and that staff with a lot of the Louisiana ties that they have, Billy Napier really wanted to make a statement and try to reel in Wardell Mack from what we've gathered. You know, Corey Raymond was also involved, but this was a recruitment that guys like Billy Napier, Jabbar Jalouk, they really took ownership of in terms of trying to get this one across the finish line. And at least now they've got Wardell Mack committed. I get a sense that this one might not be over, but the three teams that had always been in the mix, LSU, Florida, and Texas, were all battling. But right now it's the Gators that come away with them. A little bit of surprising news that it was Florida, though, when he did make that decision.
I asked Shay last week on the news coming out on Colin Simmons after he pledged to Texas on whether or not he thought that was over. He did. He says he believes this is a done deal for Simmons. What do you feel on Wardell Mack here as he pledged to Florida yesterday? Do you think this thing is shut down?
I think there's going to be a period of time where, you know, Wardell just committed. You know, you never really look at recruitments too often, I should say, and immediately say, well, that one is going to go a different way. But Wardell Mack does have that chance to maybe go another direction, whether it's LSU, whether it's Texas. We'll see. Both schools, seems like, aren't going to give up on him. But there will be a period of time where things cool off. He gets committed. You know, the season starts for both Arrett and LSU and other programs, of course. So it'll be interesting to see if they can get him back on campus. I mean, you go back to the spring and there was, you know, a lot of buzz around LSU, and a lot of it was, oh, they'll figure it out. They'll get him on board, and, you know, Wardell has interest and things like that. And over the summer, the pieces just never came together. You know, he didn't camp at LSU. He didn't visit. So it was just kind of weird that that momentum from the spring just never ended up extending into the summer. So we'll have to see if they can get him to come through for a visit and maybe start things back up. And, of course, it's a long way to December for things to be worked out. But I get the sense it's not done right now.
Kobe Black is another name that keeps popping up on the defensive back board list. He put out his top 5 earlier this week. LSU's in it. He's out of Waco, Texas. How prevalent is LSU in this race?
LSU's right in the mix for him. I would call them a dark horse right now. You've got Texas and Texas A&M that seem to have confidence to keep him in state right now. And this one will be interesting because Texas, you know, really they had a good run at the end of June into July, and then they missed on Corian Gibson, one of their top targets in state. But then they get Colin Simmons. But do they miss on a guy like Kobe Black, who's maybe not in that realm of Colin Simmons where they have to get him? They really have to reel him in. He's a 5-star. They want to keep him in state, but maybe A&M can get in there a little bit more. Maybe LSU can make some waves with their official visit that's expected next month. He was supposed to come through for the Bayou Splash. He ends up going to Texas A&M. So this one's a little bit more up in the air as far as what could happen. I know his brother has been pretty adamant about him playing in the SEC. And what do you know? You see 3 schools that'll eventually be in the SEC all battling it out for Kobe Black. I think LSU's just a little bit of a dark horse right now, but they're maybe gaining a little bit of traction. I think the visit could play a big part in really assessing where LSU stands here.
Billy, one school that you have been all over and covering and recruiting is Duncanville High School in Texas, just outside of Dallas. Big week for them last week as Simmons and Caden Durham both pledge. And then earlier this week, LSU picks up a commitment from Decorian Moore, the wide receiver who is next season's top target in the state of Texas. How big was that for LSU?
Yeah, I think this is massive to get Caden Durham on board. That was a really kind of tough recruitment for LSU to navigate because there were those ties to Oklahoma for him. But Frank Wilson does win out and gets his lone running back in the class of 2024. And he averaged 10 yards a carry last year, pretty close to it. 2,600 something yards on the ground, was a state championship MVP. He's got the verified testing. He'll run track at LSU. He's a great kid. I'm going to enjoy seeing a lot of him this fall, but also DeCorian Moore. I mean, he is one of the top receivers in the entire country. Everywhere you look, he's at least in the top 50. Some have him in the top 10 pretty consistently as well on the rankings front. He is going to be really fun to watch. LSU's going to have to battle to keep him on board. Obviously, he's 2025, so a long way to go there. But he's got the testing. He's got the big playability. Duncanville has this kind of run-heavy offense, obviously with Caden Durham, but they also have a couple other backs that they rotate in here and there. DeCorian Moore has been able to put up big plays after big plays in that offense and take advantage of that. And he's got one of the better quarterbacks in the country in Keelan Russell coming back. They're both in the same class. So I expect big things for DeCorian Moore. That's a huge pickup for LSU. They're building off that Bayou Splash visit with him, and we're able to get him on board. And I think he's a really key piece. Now it's about keeping him on board with the Tigers, and some of those in-state schools like Texas are going to come pressing. But that was big news for LSU to get that foot in the door with Duncanville. It's a hard program to get into.
One commitment date that everybody is going to be watching over here is September 28th, as Tyler Busey has set his commitment date, a huge 5-star athlete out of Texas that looks like it's coming down to LSU, Bama, and A&M on this thing. What are you hearing on Busey?
Yeah, Terry Bussey, but I feel you on that. I feel you on that. It's okay.
Gary Busey?
It's okay. Right. I think LSU is probably sitting number 2 in this recruitment right now, at least from kind of what I'm hearing about it. I think A&M has a lot of confidence. This is a recruitment that was not expected to go into the fall, so that is a good thing for LSU. They're going to get an official visit next month from him, and he does have some family that really loves LSU. He's from East Texas. He's a really interesting just prospecting young man because he's lost some of his family members and he's just got a unique family situation. But he's a 4.0 student. He's done it all for Timpson. He's a team first guy. He plays quarterback, but most schools are recruiting him at wide receiver or defensive back. And he's got the verified testing to back it up. I think he ran a sub 1100 meter with a torn meniscus this spring, which is pretty insane. And then he finally said, you know what, this is hurting too much. And he got it operated on. So tough kid too. He's been through a lot in his life, but now he's kind of coming down the stretch of his recruitment. There's a lot of confidence on Texas A&M's side. LSU is going to get a visit. Alabama has gotten him on campus, and the Tide are kind of lurking in this one. They've done well in East Texas. They've got Casey Poe committed, but it does seem like A&M sits in a pretty good spot. We'll see if LSU can really turn it. There's some people that are at least feeling good about the conversations they've had with Terry around maybe, getting more of a shot. He unofficially visited in June. LSU was able to save the official visit. He wants to have this decision done so he can focus on his senior season. It's been long thought of that A&M is going to win out, but now that it has stretched into the season, maybe the door is creaked open for LSU to make a statement with their visit and reel him in. I mean, he's one of the best players in the country. He's the number 2 athlete. He's a 5-star. I think if LSU can get him, that would be just massive. I mean, he really, really could do a bunch of different things for LSU.
Billy, I know you got to get out of here. Last one, Dominic McKinley, the state's top recruit. He made his top 5 and said he was going to be surprised. He would surprise people on his announcement. What are you hearing on the latest?
Yeah, this one is really difficult to kind of read through because if you kind of track all of the different things, you've heard Texas buzz, you've heard Oklahoma buzz, we've heard Ohio State buzz, we've heard LSU buzz coming off the Bayou Splash that maybe they made a move in his recruitment. And then there's Texas A&M that's really been lurking. They had, official visit all the way back in June too. I think he's right. I think he's going to surprise some people. I don't know if LSU has made enough of headway in this recruitment to get him. That's kind of where I stand. I think he's somebody that has visited a few times, which is good. He's at least come through. But I always feel like it's not the same as Colin Simmons, but LSU has had to battle to stay in and to try and make a move with Dominic McKinley's recruitment. And so I think you look back at Tylen Singleton and you see him not visiting LSU for a long time and then all of a sudden committing. So there's that side of it. Dominic McKinley, maybe has played his cards so close to the vest and he's had an eye on LSU this entire time. But on the flip side of that, you just can't ignore the buzz around some of these other programs. Even a couple people have talked about Ohio State really being at the forefront of this recruitment, which is a long way from home, of course. But Larry Johnson's one of the best defensive line coaches and recruiters in the country. And you look at the battle LSU's having to go through for him. You've got Elijah Robinson recruiting him. He's one of the best, if not the best, current defensive line recruiter in the country. Bo Davis has that veteran defensive line record that he's got. And Todd Bates at Oklahoma. I mean, he's done it at a very high level back to Clemson. And LSU's just had to kind of punch and, battle to get him on campus and to really make headway in his recruitment. I think they've done that with the Bayou Splash. I just don't know if it's enough. They keep things really close to the vest. This one's going to be really interesting. I think he's right. I think he's going to surprise some people.
Billy Embody from 1-3, as good as you'll find in covering recruiting. Make sure and give him a follow on Twitter or on X at Billy Embody to keep up with what's happening there at on3.com. Safe travels, Bill. We'll talk soon.
Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate you.